So this video is continuing from the previous one. So we built these legs. I'm just going to quickly show you the smooth view. So it's looking a little bit kind of crude at the moment. Well, we can work on this and we can add detail. But you can see if I was to press 2, I can start to adjust some of these. If I wanted to adjust some of these, say, faces. Let's put symmetry on X this way. So if I wanted to start working on this, I could start modifying this. But I'm not going to do that now. So I'm going to go to object mode. I have already deleted the history, but I'm just going to re-delete it just so I know it's all clean. And I'm going to continue now with this modeling. So basically it's an extension of the same process really. So using the extrude tool, I'm going to show you where the extrude tool is in the menus as well. So if you recall, we've got the different categories in these rows of tools or functions. And if we look in, there's the mesh one. So if we go to mesh tools, and it's not in there, it's in edit mesh. These things get moved around actually quite a lot. So you do have a number of mesh menus. But edit mesh is where the extrude tool is as well. So you can see it's got the same icon as the button up here. So you can do it there. And it's also Control E as well. So I'm going to just turn my symmetry off so I can grab all of these. I'm going to move this up. I'm doing this very intuitively. I'm not basing it on very strict anatomy. I'm going to click on that and I'm just going to flatten that out a bit. I'm going to add some divisions in as well. So you can see at the moment there's one division, which is one face. So if I put 3 divisions in, you can see that we've got the kind of torso divided up there. And I'm now going to do the shoulders. I'm going to put symmetry back on. And I'm going to extrude. This will be the shoulders. I'm just going to shrink that down a touch. And I'm going to turn symmetry off because I can't access all of the manipulator tool with symmetry on. Whoops, no, look what's happened here. So this is going on opposite directions. Right, the reason for that, I'm going to undo that so we're back to where we were. The reason that's happening, I'm just going to turn symmetry off again. So, let's pull this out a bit. So my shoulders are going to go to about here. Just to be emphatic, I'm going to pull that out there. Now, notice as I extrude I pull out on the Z axis, which is the Z axis is the one vertical to the face itself. The Y axis is lying along the length of that edge, and the X axis. Now, in order that the axis of that face is the same as relative to the face, it's the same. So its Z axis is sticking out this way, hence it moves that way. Now, in order for that to happen, in order for that to flip around, one of these other axes has got to rotate. In fact, the Y one is rotating on that. So the Y one remains facing that way, as the X one is facing the opposite. The Z one, because that's flipped around, so it's flipped around the Y axis. So the X is now, the X of this one is pointing up, which means if I move that down, that's going up because the X of that is going up there. Now, in order to avoid that, this switch gathers all of the axes together and this is the sum of all the other axes, so it means I can move now symmetrically in X. But if I move symmetrically in Y, but look, if I move in X now, it's doing that. So there's a kind of compromise, and this switch enables you to switch between those two, compromise towards one axis or compromise towards the other one. So this now, the X is compromised, but it's also compromised there, but I've switched the compromise around so that now I can move those X's are now being collected into the Y of the collection. Sorry, I hope I'm making sense. I'm going to scale this in a touch. Let's go down a touch and lift that up a bit. And then I'm going to do another symmetry. Now symmetry is off, but both faces are selected, so I can extrude both of those faces. Now I'm just going to show you something else. I'm going to go into the attribute editor. I'm going to go into, I need to be in object mode. By the way, you can see the extrusions here. You can see the extrusions here. So this is the history. And in the attribute editor, they are indicated as nodes. Each extrusion is a node. Same values are here, just presented slightly differently. But I want to go to my PQ shape, and I'm going to put my mesh component display on. And I'm going to display the center. Now we've already seen triangles. There's other things here, which as we go through lessons, we will look at in more detail. So I'm going to display the center. Now the center is the center of the face. I'm going to return to faces. I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to get that last poly extrude and put my manipulator on. So that now, so you can see, I'm going to, because the manipulator is here, I'm going to look at this side because it's cleaner. So you've got these little points which indicate the center of each particular face. Now and then you've got these edges. Now I want you to just focus. I'm just going to look at these four edges here. Now at the moment, if I move this, you can see the whole face is moving. But if I was to extrude, just look at this, I want you to watch these edges here. As I click extrude, can you see 1, 2, 3, 4 dots appear around those edges, which is telling us that there are faces now in those edges. The faces haven't been expressed, but they're tucked inside of those edges with 0 dimensions right now. So now this new face, if I pull it out, you can see there it is inside there. Now, if I'm going to, that's for the elbow, that's the a face loop for the elbow. We call a face loop this whole loop going around there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a deliberate mistake. I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to pretend that maybe I forgot I extruded or I misclicked. So you can see, as I pointed out earlier, there are these collapsed faces inside of those edges there. If I was to extrude again, maybe I'm not thinking or I'm not paying attention or I just forgot, and now I extrude. Now I've got a set of leftover faces that are stuck inside there. And if I actually press 3 on my keyboard so I can look at smooth mode, you can see there's a kind of weird face stuck inside there, which is not really particularly desirable. In fact, I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this, yeah, I'm going to save this as version 2. And I'm going to show you why we want to avoid having these collapsed faces. Now I'm going to go to object mode. I'm going to delete the history. Alt Shift D. If I now go something that we will do later in order to get this looking more like a human form, we will be later going smoothing this. Now you can see that what's happened is that I've got some weird stuff going. Undesirable. I mean, it's okay, but it's not ideal to have this tiny little strip of faces. So we really need to, I'm going to go back, I'm going to get my file that I just saved. So we want to avoid this. So I'm going to, now one way to do that, there's a different way, I've got to fix that now. So I'm going to actually go to Poly Extrude Phase 5, which is that one. I'm going to go here. And I can actually get out of that by going back in history and modifying that. So that would be one solution to that. So it's not the end of the world if you do that, but be aware that you don't, if you do an extrusion, you then want to actually physically extrude your extrusion out. So there's a loop of faces for the wrist. So I'm not going to do a full hand model. Need to go to face mode, select these faces, extrude. So there's the hands. I'm just doing very basic mitts for hands at this point today. I'm not going to model hands, just showing a basic modeling technique. Let's just finalize with the head. So do the deltoid muscles, which are the kind of muscles between the shoulders and the neck. It's also where your clavicles are. Just modeling this to work. And I'm not worrying too much about proportions here. Click on that. Click on that. Move this up. This is the neck. And the bottom of the head. I'm using the switching around on the tools. And this will be the head. And I'm going to put two divisions in for the head. So proportions aren't great, but I'm not worried about the proportions at this point. So I'm going to check that so that I haven't got any hidden faces, i.e. I can just have a quick look around the model and see that none of these points are stuck on edges, which is telling me that there are no collapsed faces. I'm just going to look at that in smooth mode. We're moving towards something. We do need to do some more modeling on this. Basically, I've just bashed out a really basic model. So you could think if you're working in stone or in clay, you would just start modeling out something really basic before you start working into detail. So I'm going to go to Attribute Editor. I'm going to go to my object mode. I'm going to turn my display centers off. And I'm going to delete. I'm fairly happy with that as it stands. I'm going to go Shift Alt D to delete the history. It's clean. And I'm going to save this, overwrite version 2. Control save. So we have a really basic model now that we can start to work into. It does need a lot of tidying up, but we do have a start and we can continue with this, refine this model in various ways. So that is the completion of this particular video. I will see you in the next video.